Good morning, everybody. And here we are, almost the end of June, which brings me to the recollection that, hey, Monday is Canada Day. And for those of you who are not familiar, because you're all from the States, most of you, and so you've got your holiday coming up on the 4th, of course, but Canada will actually be 152 years old on Monday. So we will be celebrating that. So not much happening in Canada. Most people would be at the beach. Please do sign in up top. Take a look up there. And you'll be able to sign into StreamYard because that's the only way that we are going to see your comments. I wanted to introduce you to our next guest, who happens to be originally from Illinois, now representing the great state of Texas. Our guest is Dr. J. Herrera.
Hi there, Judith.
Whoop, there we go.
Hi there. Hi, Judith.
Hi. So welcome to our little podcast here, where it's just a casual meeting of friends and introducing you to the group. I see that you are hard at work. I know that you've taken time out from your work to be with us today, and I really do appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
So you started out in Illinois. And now you are in Texas. That's a switch.
Texas. Yeah, I moved in Texas in 2010, looking for work. So yeah, after I graduated from school, the job market was a little thin where I was. So I decided to make a move, and I was married at that time. So my wife was willing to come along, and that's what we did. So we've settled in Texas since 2010, and her parents came along with us shortly after. So we have at least her family here, pretty much. My family's still back home, but yeah.
Setting roots at home. You don't get home very often.
I do not. No, unfortunately.
You might live in another country.
Seems like it.
2 Facebook users are saying hello. Please,
hi there.
Please sign into StreamYard so we know who it is. Okay. Right. Excellent. Let me see. Jay Herrera is our guest today. So, speaking of traveling around, have you had the opportunity, what with all your education and your hard work, you may not have had much opportunity to travel so far?
Been limited. We've had to go to, my wife's from Canada. So we've done some traveling in the last couple of years there, and my son is 7, so he's been able to go see some of his Canadian relatives. So that's been fun.
Where in Canada is she from, Jay?
Let's see. She was born actually in Toronto, and family now is in Windsor, I believe, is those provinces, right, and stuff. So I get a little confused on the geographics there, but it's Windsor, I believe, is where they primarily are settled, and her grandfather had farmland, and that's what he was, a farmer for many years, and her dad didn't want to do the farming, so he went on and became a dentist. So he practiced in there for a little while and came to the U.S. And that's how we ended up meeting, because he moved the family to the U.S. for work and established his practice. And so she's been in the U.S. for 20 years. So yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
I find it quite comical. The small amount of knowledge that generally Americans have about Canada.
Yes.
Because in our education system, we have to know all the states, we have to know all the capitals, we have to be able to draw the states, and identify them. There's so much information that we have about you guys.
Yeah.
And yet, I still get asked, do I have electricity? Do I have indoor plumbing? Do I have indoor plumbing?
Oh,
it's like, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. No, yeah.
And the funny part is that New York and Rochester and all that great stuff underneath us is in a bigger snow belt than we are.
Yeah.
Because it comes across from the Great Lakes and dumps right into that whole avenue. Anyway, geography aside, where would you like to travel?
Where would I like?
No object. Where would you like to go, Jay?
I would like to go. Oddly enough, my wife's a big traveler, so she wants to be a world traveler. So I know she would like to do that. But for me, there's some I don't know, it's kind of a geeky kind of thing, but there's some highly educated, skilled manual therapy providers in Europe. And I've been in communication with them throughout my career and back and forth emailing because they publish textbooks and stuff. So I want to go and visit Europe mainly to see those guys and work under those guys for a while and learn from them. So Scotland, London, all across Europe, meeting those providers, and that's kind of, but sightsee at the same time, experience the culture and the history there. So Europe would be a big place for me to start, I think, to see Europe. Yeah, see all that history.
And the history, the architecture, the culture, but also it's a great place to start because once you get your Schengen license, I mean, you can go, the countries are so small. For American and a Canadian, the countries are so small. You can visit 6 countries in a holiday,
that's what I've read. It doesn't seem like it could be that way, but that's what I hear. Yeah. So
pick your spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
exactly.
pick your season. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Tell me a little bit about sometimes in my head, I get chiropractor and physical therapist a little confused. Can you sort me out on that, Dr. J?
Well, yeah, it's I give a lot of respect to every healthcare discipline, especially if I haven't gone through the curriculum that they've for their specific discipline. We did learn about chiropractic principles in my program, so we understood the difference between what they're doing and what we're doing. So it's very basic. I haven't gone through a chiropractic program. I did think about after my DPT going on and becoming a chiropractor just to have the diversity of skills, but once I graduated, I was kind of done. I was settled in that. I didn't want to go on and do another few years.
And I'm sure the student debt was high enough.
The student debt was crippling at that point, so I decided to just stop, not do that formal stuff. So the physical therapy, we focus on diagnosing, assessing and diagnosing and managing movement impairment, basically. So in a nutshell, you can think of a physical therapist as a movement dysfunction specialist. So to be able to understand the movement dysfunction of the human body and why we have to understand the why. So that's why we spend a lot of years in anatomy, gross anatomy, biomechanics, kinesiology, physiology, all those movement sciences. So we can try to figure out why your body's having a hard time moving. And usually when there's having a hard time moving, there's a lot of pain associated. So physical therapists are often in the marketplace considered someone to help you get moving as well as help you with your pain. Usually you have the musculoskeletal or neuromuscular system. So basically your body and skeleton system and the nerves and how they interact. So to be able to assess you and treat you, we're taught a variety of methods to that. And it's always evidence-based. So we always come from a scientific point of view that has been verified and proven over many decades. And we're continuing to learn more and more about how to treat these things, how to treat the dysfunction and pathologies. So in a nutshell, I would say movement dysfunction specialist and how to treat that and get your body moving and feeling better. From a chiropractic standpoint, they kind of started off in a periphery around the same time as physical therapy. They kind of became organized a little bit before we did in history. But really, they're looking at what they call identifying subluxations. So
very medical.
Well, from a chiropractic standpoint, their subluxations are misalignments of your joints, mainly of the spinal column, right? And they're taught that when you have these misalignments, it can affect the way the nerves are functioning and how it affects your body and the way it feels and moves, and it can create disease. So they're heavily taught on hands-on therapy to manipulate the body, the soft tissue and joints, to try to correct these subluxations or malalignments. So we're also taught in physical therapy how to do what's called joint manipulation and soft tissue manipulation. So, but we call it physical therapy joint manipulation. We don't call it chiropractic adjustments. So there's different lingo that we're using. So, but the how is pretty much the same, in my opinion. All right. Okay. Now, if you ask a chiropractor the difference between chiropractics and physical therapy, you're going to get a whole different take. And I don't presume to be an expert on chiropractic principles and science, because I did not undergo that training model. So my knowledge is kind of more in the periphery of that and working with them. I think they're part of the healthcare continuum model as we are. And they just have a different point of view and a different way to go about helping you get to basically the same results as we're trying to get, help you move better, help you feel better. Does that help at all?
One of you can prescribe medications. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
But you can't give me drugs, man.
No. They, I was reading some of the scope of practice in the States or even in Europe. And I think there are some situations where they're trying to allow chiropractors to prescribe minimal medication, whether it be anti-inflammatories or something.
Yeah,
but widely in the US, it's not regarded that chiropractors are prescribing medications. So, and physical therapy does not prescribe medications.
Yeah.
So
it just doesn't seem right to me. You know, if you have the ability, you're granted the ability to analyze what the problem is. You know, and not to be able to, as you say, anti-inflammatories, a little bit of pain relief. You know, I'm not saying, you know, Oxycontin and a whole bunch of other stuff, but
the lower class drugs. I agree. I think that we're kind of more or less especially with the advancement of the doctoral education and physical therapy in the U.S. It's more of a turf war. It's politics and power and turf war that we're experiencing in the U.S. So Texas, just this summer, had the governor of Texas signed into law that physical therapists, that the Texas residents can actually come directly to a physical therapist without a referral for a limited period of time for treatment, which is huge. We've never had this before for treatment. So this is a big deal. Now, most other states are already doing it. So Texas is kind of lagging. But Texas has been very stubborn to physical therapists for many decades, but we're finally gaining some momentum. So the legislation is catching up with the education. That's how I like to say it. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
it takes time. It all
takes time.
Now, you like any of the professions, as opposed to going to. You take someone who, like I took the administrative route. Okay, so yeah, I didn't end up with a lot of debt for my education. I was able to start making, actually my first job, I started making more money than my dad. That was kind of embarrassing. Thing with family, you know, but that's just the way it was. I was working in the city, he was working in the country.
Okay.
You know, but what I stopped to consider every once in a while are these professions where you end up at the end with hundreds of, sometimes thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And that has got to be hard to deal with, because you can't come out of the gate making big bucks.
Correct.
So is that part of your journey, Jay? Is that part of what's brought you to where you are with us today?
I think you hit it right on the head there. I came out of school. I started seeing the writing on the wall in my second year. And I actually thought about dropping out, because I said, I'm accruing all this debt. Should I continue? Because I thought the economics wouldn't quite be there. And this is in 2006 when I graduated. So in the mid 2000s, we were making all this movement toward direct access, autonomy of practice, basically letting us govern ourselves, versus in the US, they've been trying to have a lot of medical oversight to what we do, which limits our economic and business processes. So then I started learning more about we learn a little bit about business, clinical business management as part of our curriculum, but it's not a lot. So we have to have an idea of, okay, here's how you open a practice. Here's the starting budget that you would typically start, and it can take 6 to 12 months to kind of get traction. How do you support yourself in the meantime? Things like that.
Okay.
So we had a little bit
to address that,
but it's not a heavy marketing focus. We understand like business administration type of things and operation costs coming out basics. but the marketing was nil. So when I came out, I said, wow, I have this 6-figure loan. When you come out, the average, well, this is mid 2006, but it hasn't changed a whole lot since. According to the national average, we're looking at in US dollars about $65,000 a year salary for most new graduate physical therapy, and it's gonna vary across the nation.
It's actually higher than I thought it was going to be, so that's good.
Yeah. So, and you'll have some areas where it's lower and some where it's higher. Like just to be upfront and be transparent, my initial my very first job out of school is one of my clinical instructors called me and said, "Are you done?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Great, I got a job for you." So he actually recruited me to a place where he was working and supervising, and we got along great. So their starting wage for a new graduate physical therapy was $25 an hour. So they said, well, because you have your doctorate, we're going to give you an extra $1. So $26 an hour. So, you know,
you're more than that teaching English online in the morning.
You typically have about a 6-month grace period before their student loan repayments start kicking in.
Okay.
So I worked for that 6 months. I was learning, I was developing my skills as a new grad. And when those loans kicked in, basically that was a heavy mortgage payment that I had to cover. So that took pretty much half my take-home salary per month to cover that.
Wow.
So I said, I can't afford to do this. So within about 2 months, I regretfully resigned from that position. I really liked the position. And I just explained to my superiors that I just can't afford to work here.
Right.
So then I went and did contract work, which I could bump up my rate a little bit, so to kind of stay afloat. But after my wife, she was still in law school at the time. So after she graduated with her own 6-figure loans, we decided to up and move to Texas. Yeah. So that huge student loan burden, which is becoming a big national discussion in the U.S., especially as we're ramping up to politics and re-elections, that student loan burden was the catalyst for me thinking, how can I use my education in a different way? So that's kind of was the started. And that was in 2007, it clicked in my head, I had to do something else. So that was 2007.
Wow. Yeah. That's quite an eye opener. Yeah. What a shame that you don't live in Bahrain in the Gulf, because 3 years ago, the Bahraini government, in its infinite wisdom, looked at its people and said, oh, too much debt. You have mortgages, you have 3 cars, you have all this going on. Tell you what we're going to do. We will cover everyone's debt. Wow. If you are Bahrainian, they paid all the debt. One stipulation, you must enroll in a financial management course.
Oh.
You start fresh, you start with 0, but you got to learn how to manage your money.
Wow.
This is from a country that came into money like overnight, and nobody knew how to work with it.
Wow.
But I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't see Trump doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, just pure economics of the thing is just ridiculous. But boy, wouldn't that be sweet, eh?
Yeah, that would be something. Yeah.
Not that you want to work in Bahrain. Yeah. Anyway, that's a diversion, but a little bit of education on the side. There are some interesting countries out there.
Yeah.
So, are you better off, do you think, working in Texas than, are there other states that are known for being the best PT?
Yeah. State? So it's funny you asked, because when we left home, we decided to do what's called travel work. Okay. So my wife wherever we settled, my wife is going to take the bar exam at that state.
Sure.
So after she graduated, she passed the Indiana bar, but you have to work like 5 years in your state before you can get what's called reciprocity to another state for law.
Yeah.
That's how she explained it to me at the time.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So so she had to retake the bar. She said, I only want to do one more bar exam. They're kind of brutal. I don't want to do too many. I said, I can appreciate that. So I said,
to do the first one.
Right. Our plan was to actually end up in Arizona, because come travel through Texas and end up in Arizona, because the legislation is very, very supportive of physical therapists there. So I wanted to open up my wellness clinic there and start a practice there under that amazing legislation that they have. And they've had it really supportive for 35, 40 years for physical therapists for direct access, 100%. So you and the physical therapist can work together as long as you want. You being the health consumer and the therapist being the licensed provider. So,
Jay, does that have any connection or anything to do? Because as soon as you mentioned that, I went, older population, lots of patients.
Yep. Yeah. So, so there would be probably a greater degree of like Medicare baby boomer there to work. So long term, you would have plenty of people to work with. Exactly. That wouldn't be a problem. Yeah. So, but we got held up in Texas. I accepted a full-time position in Texas because they basically were desperate for a full-time provider, not a traveler. Okay. So they threw a lot of money at me to get me to stay. And my wife was going to take the bar exam, and I had to support both of us, and she wanted to start a family. So we said, okay, well, how about 3 or 4 years in Texas, and then we'll move on to Arizona. But then we got stuck in Texas. So because she does not want to move again, and her family's here now, and she's progressing her career, so she doesn't want to move. So exactly. I respect that. Yeah, I respect that. So
how did you start? What got you on this journey of where you're at now? Because you're looking to see how you can expand on your education,
right,
and branch out into other areas that might be a little bit more lucrative.
Right. So the entrepreneurial side was something that was always in my mind, especially since 2007 with my debt. And although my PT position salary was kind of keeping us comfortable, it wasn't so much painful. It was keeping us comfortable. So I felt like I could take time to figure out what I was going to do and trying to encapsulate the various projects I've tried to get off the ground the last few years. It's kind of hard, but I basically started off in network marketing, MLM, those types of things, and actually had bad experiences. I know they work for many people. It just didn't work for me for a variety of reasons. But I was always trying to figure out why. What was the limitations of those kind of systems? And ultimately, through multiple mentors and having countless webinars and courses, and just trying to learn about marketing and how that worked. I like the idea of leverage and leveraging my resources, leveraging myself, leveraging my time, and having more of a global product or service versus a very regional, like in physical, because there's only so many patients I can see in a day. So I knew I would be limited. So then I started thinking about, instead of selling someone else's products, how can I sell my own products? So that was a major shift. So I decided to, with much encouragement and mentoring, start creating your own products. You have credentials, let's use them, let's build on that. So I decided to create, I wrote a book, it's on Amazon, and I developed my own vitamin supplement line for inflammation and pain. So I did all that, and I launched that, and it was a massive failure. So yeah, because I'd spent all my money on inventory, and I didn't realize how much I was going to have to spend to market and distribute. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's a huge learning process and an expensive one, and I learned a lot from it. So I still have people now asking me, "Hey, your lotion, is it still for sale? It was amazing. It's a pain relieving lotion." And I said, "Well, I have a few old bottles in a box, but I can't sell anymore because they're considered expired. But I give it to friends, that want it." So I learned a lot, and I learned about what not to do.
Is that something that you would resurrect again, though?
Oh yeah, for sure, because
there's value there.
The physical, it's a whole other thing when you're dealing with physical products. So, but I did about a year's worth of research. I called different manufacturers, and I probably invested about $3,500 in launching that. But that was pretty much all my capital, and I didn't leave any left over for marketing, and I thought I could just wing it, and that was naive. So and that was about 5 years ago, and that wasn't correct. So you have to have, in my opinion, what I learned from that is have your marketing processes and systems in place. Make sure they're tight. Make sure you understand what you're doing. Make sure you have a budget dedicated already, and then reverse engineer your product, your service, whatever is going to fit into that marketing model, that marketing distribution model. So that was a big takeaway, is how, if I have an idea, I think, how can how can I get that to the masses for consistently, cheaply, and effectively, and get conversion. So that's how my brain now works as a result of that experience.
That's quite a different switch, isn't it?
Big switch for sure.
Welcome to digital marketing.
It's been a long journey, and I'm still learning. I still have good mentors today who are where I aspire to be with digital marketing and things. So I'm continuing to learn every day. So it's getting closer. I feel like they all in the marketing world and entrepreneurship, they talk about your breakthrough, right?
Right.
It's a big journey, and then it's a lot of times it can be different time frames for different people, right. And it's very frustrating along the way.
And it'd be nice if there were shortcuts, but there aren't any. And
exactly.
We've all bought the shiny objects. I have a massive toolkit of things that I can present, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, but it would be nice if there was, if there are very, very, very few people who can launch something and get right to it,
right.
and start making massive amounts of money. I think that the avenue that you've taken and to be able to take what you've got and to be able to market that, and as more and more people are doing now, you have an idea, you market that idea, and then you build the product. Mm-hmm. Which is such a difference. We used to build the product and then find people.
Yeah.
And working the other way seems to work a little bit better in some cases, not in everyone, I'm sure. So what direction are you heading at the moment? What are your goals?
So right now I have, it's very hard because my day job takes up most of my time. So the patient care and I have a day job where I'm employed with a local hospital where I work in the outpatient for them. And that consumes most of my working day. I have my own specialty clinic on the side that I've learned not to just go, I learned to be careful. Most of my peers will borrow $50,000 to $75,000, open a clinic, get your Medicare provider number and insurances, and that can be 6 to 12 months of debt before you start seeing a patient.
Right.
So I didn't do that. I had a physician friend that I've worked on as a patient. He said, "Here you go, have this room. I don't need it." And he's supporting me in that endeavor. So I said, "Great." I got a secondhand table. It's not very fancy, but I'm the tool basically. But I do have a table. And I'm starting very, very gently with that. I see patients in evenings and on my Saturdays, my weekends, to try to get traction, build up my brand that way. So that's a revenue stream, right? And that's just launched in the past about 2 months.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. The main thing I'm working on is I've been developing in the last year instead of creating products for health consumers, right? Books or vitamin supplements or reports. And, you have different price points, $10, $20, $50, whatever you're selling. I decided to go to be a trainer to trainers. I decided to use my education to educate people in the health and fitness industry and certify them under my own system, and then help them not only acquire new skills to work with people in their fitness endeavors, but also to give them marketing training and marketing tools to help them build their business. So that's what I'm doing.
That sounds like a good idea.
Well, thank you. I hope it is. It's I've had a couple of different mentors when I described and outlined it. They said, "That looks good, go for it." So that I hope to launch in the next month or so. I'm working on my marketing system now. Again, I worked on the marketing system first, and then I started building content to fit the marketing system. Because first I wanted to identify a market, right? Basic, economy, identify a market that I felt could support my idea. And I feel like I have one. And then I started building the system around that market of buyers. So I hope to launch that in the next 4 weeks or so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'd like to have you back once you've been in this area for a couple of months, and let's just track the progress. I would think that one of the really important areas is branding, because who wants to take what's the value in them taking the course? If there are 3 or 4 other courses out there that might do the same thing, how do you establish yourself as the course to take?
Right. That I do have some heavy competition, generally speaking, in the fitness and health certification market. But in the U.S., and through my research, again, I did about a year's worth of research and investigation before I decided to kind of go that way. And what I found is that it's a wild west here in the U.S. when it comes to fitness and health. There's no governing entities really. There's no licensing process. There's no minimum education process. So really, it's a buyer beware. So as a healthcare consumer, you have to do your own due diligence when it comes to the fitness and health market, as opposed to, say, traditional healthcare discipline like physical therapy, dentistry, physician, chiropractics, amongst others. You can understand as the public that there's a minimum level of competence that person has had to achieve and become licensed in order to put their hands on you. Right. So you can be confident that they've met the minimum criteria, usually, right? So
usually, yes.
Usually.
I've been to a few of those.
But it's not like that in the fitness and health. So I said, so that's actually what deterred me in the very beginning from getting involved, because I thought, well, there's no way to, how do you credential this process, and how do you verify, how do you vet it? It just seemed really interesting. It didn't seem to make sense. But it took a couple of very stern conversations with caring mentors that said, look, here's the deal. You have credentials. You can use those credentials to help add something to the industry that isn't really there. So I said, that sounds really good. So in a way, it's somewhat innovative. There are some programs out there offering kind of what I'm trying to do. But what I see them lacking is, again, I assessed, what is this system lacking? So I don't want to just produce something else that's already there. That's not helping in any way.
You need to be a bit unique and set yourself aside.
A little bit, I think. Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking to recreate the wheel necessarily, but I want to be a little bit innovative and unique so I can stand apart a little bit at least. So
exactly. There has to be a reason for these customers to come to you for your training.
And the big thing I noticed was that their marketing and business tools and just understanding how to make themselves successful with this new certification skill set. What do you do with it? How do you monetize it? How do you get more clients? So that's kind of the back end of my program, is I'm really heavily focusing on that and helping them get new customers and helping them get recurring customers and just teaching them how to leverage themselves, right? Because they're going to be in the same boat I was. I can only see so many patients in a day. They can only work with so many fitness clients in a day. So how do we overcome that, right? So that was really the catalyst for kind of narrowing in my focus on my training platform is to make sure that there's a strong marketing component, because that wasn't available when I was trying to get going.
Right.
Yeah, and that wasn't available.
That's the difference between success and failure, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Happiness and whatever else is going to go on.
Yeah.
We're happier when we're able to meet our financial demands and go further to something that's going to make us happier as well.
Right.
I have a question here from Chris.
Okay.
Oh, Chris. Data chimp.
Yes. Okay. So data chip, that is something I'm extremely excited about.
Is it data chip or data chimp?
Chimp, using the monkey reference.
Okay. All right. So it is right.
Yeah.
I from time to time I do question.
Yeah. No, that's
Chris's,
good.
Spelling.
Yeah. So
now that may be a quantum leap from what you've been talking about. Don't know.
Well, it's in that journey to understanding and having systems and platforms to help the business market and marketing and again, diversifying what I'm trying to do with my portfolio long term. Right. One of the things I've always been interested in is how to help business, because I was taught this, and it finally clicked about 3 years ago. It said, what if you can become a provider of generating business and revenue, or it basically leads to a business. As long as there are businesses, right, there are going to be a need for new customers to those businesses. Right. So if you can become a provider of helping a business generate new customers, well, I mean, do you think that might be profitable as a business venture for me to do, right?
Absolutely.
So I've always been, how do I do that? How I would love to have like my own email database, system, that types of things. So the project that is in development is actually creating a lead generation system, right, for businesses to use. So we would offer the services of basically getting them qualified leads, and they would pay us a fee or monthly fee,
Right.
However that we're going to set that up to
And
generate those leads.
In the physical therapy industry, that's broad spectrum, is it?
Oh no, it's going to be multiple industries. So
Right.
we're going to have targeted lead generation potential. So it can be healthcare, it could be contract work, roofers, plumbers, like MLM seekers if they're looking for people interested in entrepreneur opportunities, things like that. So it's helping connect a variety of business industries and verticals to a consumer that and then they would pay us for those leads. And what we want to do is innovate with this platform, do something that's different than what's already out there, and be extremely competitive on pricing, because those lists, as you know, can get very expensive. I've bought leads lists and for postcard mailings and such, very expensive. It gets expensive quick, especially if you have no sales coming in with that first batch of attempt. So so that can be very cost prohibitive to young entrepreneurs or beginning entrepreneurs who have a limited budget. You need to get results so you can keep your business going, keep it progressing. So we're keeping that in mind. We're trying to create this platform so that we can help find them targeted leads to increase their potential conversion ratio, so they can have sales coming in fairly quickly with even the first batch of lead generation services. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And you're only as good as your list, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're depending on lists. You're only as good as your list.
So that platform we hope can be brought to the market in the next 4 to 6 weeks. To have like a beta version that we can put out there. Yeah.
And this is an incredible summer for you.
I hope so. Again, a few minutes ago, I mentioned breakthrough. So I'm hoping that this is a breakthrough year for me and finally puts me over that, where I can basically do this type of thing full time. Right. I don't think I'll ever leave physical therapy but I want to do it as a hobby. I don't want to do it as a primary source of income, because I really enjoy helping people where I can help. But if I can be selective in who I want to work with and not care about the money really, then that's paradise.
That is. We all aspire to that, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I have one question that I'm going to toss up for now. I would like to know, because it is such a talked about thing that's coming into our country, both of our countries, and that is CBD oil. So there are those who think there's something to it, those who think it's a bunch of hogwash. Probably on an individual basis, if you think it helps you, whatever. What can you tell me about it? As in terms of pain management and or just helping the body, or does it? Maybe it doesn't.
Well, so
I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be something that we're going to need some more research and evidence in the next decade or so to really truly understand what we're doing. It's in its infancy, really, of truly being investigated as to the effects, the pharmacological effects. Well, I use the term pharmacological because it is influencing the body system as far as pain management and a variety, anti-inflammation, and a variety of other effects on the physiology. It's not classified as a drug yet, so it's still classified under the natural foods. So it's in its, but it's really, it's interesting you bring that up. I had a gentleman about a PhD researcher, marketer, who's affiliated with a company in that industry who has 90% share of the market. Okay. And he reached out to me on LinkedIn, of all places. So again, going back to branding, I used all the free stuff I can use. Right. So in the beginning, if you say, well, I don't have money to hire an agency, how am I going to, hey, do all the free stuff. Right? So YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, business page, do all that free stuff, because even though it's not a quick thing, all those things are assets to you online. And today, today we really can't survive without being online as a business. You have to be online.
Absolutely. And consistency counts.
Consistency counts, right?
Absolutely.
So he found me on LinkedIn. He liked my profile. He saw that I was not only just a doctor of physical therapy, but I did entrepreneurial. So he reached out and said, hey, would you take a look at this? Here's the research that we have thus far. Here's what the company does. Here's what we're using it for. Here's what we're advocating. It is a network marketing based concept system. So that gives me a little pause because of my history with that. So I said, well, but they're trying to innovate. They're trying to do things where they can align themselves with licensed healthcare professionals to use in practice and distribution. So I said, well, that sounds interesting. When that develops further, please let me know, because I may be interested at that point. But I'm very cautious about aligning myself with other companies, even if they have 90% of the market share, just because I feel in part of my journey, I don't want to say the name of the company because I don't want to cause problems, but it's dissolved now.
Anyway. Separately later, though. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So this is probably about 10 years ago, and their concept was delivering nutraceuticals via television infomercials. And the entrepreneurial angle of that was I could be at home taking orders. So I would pay for credits, and I would go into my queue and I would open up and say, I'm here to accept orders. And whatever order you took, you always got a commission or percentage of that. So if the patient or the customer paid monthly for that, say $30 a month for product A, I got a commission. So it was recurring revenue. Again, I started thinking recurring revenue is a really good idea. I should get in on that. Right?
Yeah, we like recurring revenue. That's great.
But
what's all about
the CEO, the tech 10 years ago was kind of limited. So it was okay. It wasn't great, right? I would often have drop calls or, all this stuff. So, and the credits weren't that cheap. You had to pay, it was probably $10 a credit that you had to pay to get that call. So that company dissolved because the CEO was mishandling things. I don't know the full story, and it dissolved. So again, if I would have had my primary income be that company, and that company overnight was shut down by the government, right, due to mishandling, then
I know the company.
Okay, my income would have just stopped. So that gave me a lesson. Right. That gave me a lesson. And I said, I really would rather have my own company. When I'm in control of how it's ran, I can do things right. So I do it how I want to do it. So I feel my even though there are very strong companies coming up in the network marketing, MLM, what have you, the commission-based companies, I like doing my own thing.
Right.
So, and that's kind of where I spend my time and energy and resources. Yeah, maybe I'm missing out on something big, but I'd rather develop my own thing because I feel more confident long-term in that.
You certainly have enough on your plate right now that you don't need to be anything.
Yeah, exactly. I have limited resources. And that's the challenge of being an entrepreneur.
How the hell are you working in a family and all this, Jay?
You have to compartmentalize very well. It does cause some frustration with the marriage, but my wife works a firm.
Yeah.
Life. So that's long hours, right? Sometimes 7 days a week. She's doing
something.
Thank
goodness. It's not like she's sitting at home waiting for you. She's got her own life and her own terrible schedule.
But people can ask and hear my story and say, well, how come it sounds like you have these ideas? Why is it taking so long? Because I can't move very fast. I have limited resources of time and money. So I have to take small steps most of the time because I just can't stop what I'm doing and focus 8 to 10 hours a day and get a project launched in a month. I would like to, but I can't do that. So you do what you can. It's not, I don't use that as an excuse to keep me from progressing. So
baby steps are better than no steps.
Exactly. So I don't care if it takes 6 months or 12 months.
I also think that baby steps sometimes are much better and more firmly planted than quantum leaps because you can go run amok a lot faster.
Yeah. Big step. But it seems like the smaller steps can allow you to be a little bit more observant of barriers that get in the way, and so you don't overreach and then get yourself into trouble, financially or time or whatever. But it does come at a cost because it's not something when you're trying to get started with anything like this and you have a full-time job, it's really hard. You only have so many units of time. And you hear some mentors or teachers talking about, well, if you really want it, you'll work your 8 hours a day and put your kids to bed at 9 o'clock, and then you're going to work until 3 a.m. to make your dream happen. And I say, well, being on the healthcare side, I'm like, well, you can get yourself really sick really fast doing something like that.
Yes,
you really can.
Yeah.
So it's balance. It's balance.
You can't spread yourself too thin.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you've had an opportunity yet to catch the podcast from last week with Mary Sloan.
Not yet. No, I look forward to
Mary
it.
Sloan is the messenger chat box queen. Okay. She's really got her head wrapped around it, and she knows what she's talking about. She's got a message for us. Let's have a look at this message.
Oh, okay, great.
Lead generation is always valuable. Now she's talking about qualified leads, making all the difference in the world. And that's so true. I mean, that's what's going to make or break what you do.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than having a reputation of, I bought those leads and 3 of them worked out of the 1,000.
Yeah.
How do you get qualified leads? Do you know? Have you sorted that out yet?
So there's through the chat bot. I mean, it's doing the messenger marketing. That's kind of the big rage this year, isn't it? And I'm developing my greater understanding of that, but I haven't even launched my own campaigns yet. But I'm actively researching and educating on how to do that, and how to do it cheaply, because I don't want to start investing on all this for tools and everything without really knowing what I'm doing.
Well, you might have a chat with Mary at some point.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love.
Great.
I want to. I'm here to learn as anybody. So as far as data processing, what we're doing, we're aligning ourselves with companies that specialize in going out there and verifying these leads coming in. So there's a variety of ways to do that. You can do call verified leads. So you have people that a lot of it's trying to happen online or through postal systems, where they'll get people for various interests. They'll have them contact and give their permission to be contacted about future offerings in maybe in their neighborhood. So maybe like something like Value Pack or something. There's like, I get it in the mail constantly where it's like, well, hey, sign up here and get the latest coupons for services in your area. And what those companies do is they go out and get people like me in the residential area to express interest in receiving coupons and discounts of local businesses, right, in my area. And then they basically rent my contact information to these local businesses for a huge uptick. So that's, but they're verifying, they're getting my permission for me to receive marketing offerings. Same thing online. Like opt-in email, so it's the same thing. You're opting in with your name and email to receive whatever that promotion is, and so that's really how you want to be. You don't want to be spamming people. You don't want to buy those leads that are acquired in an inappropriate way. Let's say. So part of the data chimp is going to be focused on working with vetted and verified leads only.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that. I have the feeling we'll be talking again, Jay.
That sounds good. Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop. Yeah.
Excellent. This has been so enlightening, Jay, and I really thank you for all your time that you've been able to give us today. I know you have a patient who might be waiting for you very soon, so I'm going to let you go without. I'm conscious of the time that we're taking up.
Thank you.
But I do thank you for such a wealth of information, and I certainly wish you, as I'm sure we all do, wish you good luck and prosperity in your future. We'll have you back to talk about it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So Jay Herrera was our guest today. I have a few things to do before we close the show. One of the things that I wanted to mention that is available to you, and I've never really talked about it before, and that is that if you have something coming up that you think that we should all know about, and this Chamber Influencers is not a place for you to come in and pander your wares, as it was, or if it's not for promotion, do reach out and get in touch with me. My email is up here, Judith@Awesome Media. If you would like to be my guest, let me know. Not saying I can slot you in right away. I do have a lineup but we'll certainly work with you as best we can. Drew Griffin is our joining us next week, and that should be a lively presentation, I'm sure. But there's one last piece of business to take care of. Ron Sams is our winner of Mary Sloan's Messenger chatbot. So, Ron, Mary will be getting in touch with you shortly after our podcast, and I'm sure that you maybe actually want to come back and tell us about how that went, so we can follow through. A gift from a presenter, followed by how that all how it all shook down. Congratulations, Jerry! You're a survivor in a challenging new world. How true! And we do have to sometimes change direction to make it all work. We have our passion, but how do we make it work? How do we survive with it? So, I would like to thank everybody for attending. I know that we don't always have a lot of people on here at the time of the recording, but we do have a lot of people who watch afterwards, and I thank you all. So, without further ado, go out, enjoy the beach, enjoy the sunshine, long weekend, and I'll see you next week with Drew. Thank you. Bye-bye.